Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video I'm going to be showing you two ways to finish off your necklines when you sew dresses or anything, basically tops, dresses, anything with a neckline. So I'm going to be showing you two ways to finish off your neckline. I'm going to be starting with something very basic like the round neckline. So I'm going to be showing you how to draw the perfect round neckline rather, and also how to finish off the perfect neckline. And some of the things I'm going to be using would be, I'm going to be using my measuring tape. So I've got my measuring tape here. Of course, you know it's used to make markings. I've also got my tailor's chalk. You could use your fabric marker if you have one. And then I've got my pair of fabric scissors, which is what I'm going to be using. And of course, I've got this bias strip already cut out, and as you can see, it's slightly stretchy, and that's because it's on the bias grain. So on its own, this fabric is not stretchy, but like I said, it is slightly stretchy because it is cut on the bias grain. And I've also got another piece of Ankara fabric right here. So as you can see, it's not stretchy, and this is what we're going to use for the second neckline, which is facing. And then I've got two pieces of my muslin. It's locally called teru here in Nigeria, but it's called muslin. So guys, without further ado, we're going to get into the video. Alright guys, so like I mentioned earlier, I'm going to be showing you how to finish off your neckline, and the first method we're going to be exploring is how to finish off your neckline using your bias tape. So basically, if you've watched my previous video, or if you don't know how to cut a bias strip, do check out the video that I'll link in the iCard above, as well as in the description bar below, and it will show you how to cut your bias tape, and as well as how to use your bias tape maker to make a single fold bias tape or a double fold bias tape, guys. So you definitely want to check out the video, and after checking out the video, you want to come back to this one where you see how to sew or finish your neckline with your bias tape. So as you can see, I've gone ahead to cut out the bias strip, and that's what I'm going to be using. So the next thing to do is to cut out your neckline that you want, and I've got this piece of muslin here, so I'm just going to basically cut out the neckline that I want. So basically, to cut out a round neckline, when you say round neckline, a round neckline is like you have the same width and the same height or neck depth. So the neck width is the same thing as the neck depth. So when you measure horizontally like this, horizontally, you're measuring the neck width, okay? And remember that it's on fold. So basically, when you have 4 inches and you double it, you would have 8 inches because we're working in half of the body, right? And then you also want to measure the neck depth. And like I said, remember the neck width and the neck depth will match to give you a round neck. So you have that like that. Now the simple trick that I use to get the perfect round neck is you want to come down by about 1 inch. You want it to be straight by about 1 inch. Same thing here, you want it to come straight by about 1 inch, right? And if you don't have a tool at your disposal, if you have a pattern master or a different tool, you can definitely just draw a curve. But if you don't have a tool, this definitely works. Come down by 1 inch here, come down by 1 inch here, or come out by 1 inch here, and then you just gently want to draw in your curve, okay? So it takes a bit of practice, but you want to draw in your curve. And after you've drawn in your curve, you have the perfect round neck. So guys, I was just thinking, if you want me to teach you like how to draw different kinds of necklines, let me know in the comment section. Please let me know, and I will see what I can do about making a video explaining in details how to draw the different necklines. But for today, I'm only teaching you how to finish like my two favorite methods of finishing necklines, and the first one is what we're doing now, which is how to finish your necklines with a bias tape. So like I said, you want to draw the round neck and then you want to cut it off. So I'm just going to cut this neckline off, okay? And this is what we have when you open it up like that. So you have this, okay guys? So now, to finish off this round neck with your bias tape, the first thing you need to do, I'm going to grab my pins for that, just to have some pins handy. The first thing you need to do to finish off this neckline is you want to go ahead and find the front of your outfit. So we're assuming this is the right side of our outfit, okay? You want to find the right side of your outfit, and then you want to place your bias tape just right there at the edge so that the edges align, and you want to pin it in place, okay guys? So go ahead and do that all the way around. Because it's cut on a bias grain, and because it's a bit stretchy, because it's cut on a bias grain, it would adjust to the circle. So don't worry about like any pleats, any folds that you might have that appears like it's coming up, because it would all disappear when you sew it in place. And that's the beauty of cutting stuff on a bias grain. So guys, after sewing this all around, the next thing to do, depending on what you cut your bias as, is to go ahead and sew this. And I want to say you want to sew this by 1/4 of an inch. If you don't know again what 1/4 of an inch is, I'll just briefly show you, but I've got a video or detailed tutorial on that. So basically, if this is 1 inch, this line here would be 1/4 of the 1 inch right here. So I'll link the video again showing you how to read the measuring tape, and you want to check this out. So you're going to go ahead and sew this following the shape, and you want to sew by 1/4 of an inch. So I'll go do that and come back to you guys. Alright guys, so as you can see, I've gone ahead to sew my bias onto my assuming this is the top, onto the top around the neckline. And you must remember that you want your top to be the right side and then the bias to be sewn on the right side first. That's the first way to do it, okay? So guys, I don't know if you can see, like I said, you want to sew by 1/4 of an inch, and this is what I have right now, okay? So the next thing to do is we're going to flip this to the wrong side, right? You can see me, I'm flipping that to the wrong side. And then you want to bend this over. Basically have a slight fold. The fold kind of covers the stitch, and then just fold all of this over. But when you fold it over, you want to make sure that you don't see the bias on the other side, okay? So you want to make sure that it's free, you don't see the bias on the other side. So I'm just going to zoom in my camera and then go over it again. Alright guys, so for better perspective, I've zoomed in my camera. Like I said, you want to fold this over so it goes over the stitch, as you can see. And then you want to fold it over one more time. You want to make sure in front there's nothing showing. And then you want to go ahead and pin this in place. I'm going to do that all the way around. So you fold this over, and then we fold that over. Okay guys, so I hope you can see this, right? Alright guys, so I'm going to zoom out the camera just real quick. As you can see guys, I'm done folding it over, and this is what it looks like. So it looks really nice, and as you can see on this side, you can barely see that there's you know, the Ankara showing. By the time I sew it in place properly, you wouldn't see the Ankara showing on the other side. And the reason why I use Ankara is so that you can tell the contrast and you can see like properly. If I had used this fabric, you probably wouldn't be able to see it clearly. So guys, the next thing to do is to go ahead and top stitch the bias down. You basically want to sew the bias down, and you want to sew it as close to the edge as possible, and you want to sew this all the way down. So I'm going to go ahead and do that all the way around the neckline, and then I'll come back to you guys. Alright guys, so basically after finishing the neckline, this is what the neckline looks like. It's actually not the best that I've done. It's a bit wonky, but this is what it looks like after finishing the neckline. And on the reverse side, this is what it looks like. So basically when you give it a good iron, you ideally shouldn't be able to see the Ankara from that side, okay? When you lay it flat on the table, give it a good iron, you shouldn't be able to see the Ankara fabric. However, this is how you finish your neckline with the bias tape. So this is the first neckline, or the first method I like to use when I am finishing a neckline and I'm not lining my outfit. So if I was lining my outfit with some form of lining, it will be a different thing entirely. But for outfits that I'm not lining, like shift dresses or like simple tops, I would literally use my bias tape to finish my neckline, or I will use the second method, which I'm about to show you guys now. Alright guys, so moving on to method 2. The second method I like to use to finish off necklines when I'm not lining my dress or my top would be using a facing. And if you don't know what that is, a facing is basically cutting up the same neckline, however in a shorter form, and it just kind of helps, it functions like a lining, okay? So a simple explanation for that would be me showing you basically how that works. So if this was my neckline or my outfit or my top, for instance, the first thing to do again is to draw in the neckline. So because I've done the round neckline, I don't want to do the same neckline for this one. So I'm going to go with a batu neckline, which is what people call the butt neck. And the butt neck is basically a neckline that is wide and then not too deep. So it's got a really small depth, and then it's got like a lot of wideness to it. So with the batu neckline, I want to go for something as wide as 5.5 inches. So I've gone ahead to mark my neck width, which is 5.5 inches. Again, you must remember that when you open up the fabric, it's in two, right? So if you had 5.5, you're going to get 11 inches when you open up your neckline. And then for the neck width, I want to go in by 2 inches, okay? Now the trick with drawing the perfect batu neckline is you want to go in about 2.5 inches, and then you can see going by 2.5 inches, that's like a straight, and then you just want to connect this with like a slight curve, right? Slight curve. So guys, as you can see, I have the perfect neckline right here. So the next thing to do is to cut out the neckline. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut out the batu neckline, right? And guys, after cutting out my neckline, this is what I have right here. Now, to do your facing, you want to cut out the exact same thing with your facing fabric. However, it will be much smaller, so it doesn't have to be a full fabric. All right, guys, so basically with the facing, the difference is you only need a little bit of fabric. You don't need the whole lot of, fabric for that. You just need a little bit. So I've got this little piece of fabric that I'm going to be using for my facing, and I'm just going to fold this into two, just so that I have something really decent, right? And like I said, remember that we only, we just need a little bit of it. So I'm going to place my actual neckline. So we're assuming this is our top, okay? And then this is our, piece of fabric that we're using for the facing. Usually it would be from the same material, but because I am trying to show you guys the contrast, I'm using a different material. So you want to place it, and you want to make sure that the center front, and in case you don't know what the center front is, it's the folded part right down the middle, which is the center of the front, literally. So you basically want to make sure that they align and they match, and then you want to pin it in place, okay? So you basically want to pin the center front in place, and then you want to pin the neckline all the way, and you want to cut the exact same neckline as you have on the back, on the main fabric. So we're going to cut that out on the facing, okay, right there, and cut out the shoulder as well, because you definitely want it to get to the shoulder. Even if it doesn't get to the whole lot of the shoulder, you want to get to halfway of the shoulder. So after cutting out the shoulder and making sure it gets to the shoulder, even if it's just half of the shoulder, you want to make sure that it gets there. After doing that, you want to unpin it gently, right? And the next thing you want to do is, depending on how much or how wide you want your facing to be, you definitely want to cut out the rest and follow the shape. So for me, I always like my facings to be about 2.5 inches or 2 inches. So I'm going to go with 2 inches. So I'm going to follow the neckline and just mark 2 inches all the way, like that. Mark 2 inches all the way. So as you can see, that's where it ends. Ideally, like I said, it should go to the shoulder. This is not wide enough. I'll try and see if I can do something that is wide enough, but this should go to the shoulder. All right, guys, you know what? I'm just so that you guys get it clearly, I'm going to change the facing piece. All right, guys, I'm back again. I decided to use a different facing piece so that you guys get it clearly, and I don't want to confuse you guys. So like I said, you want to place this, you want to place the your neckline or your top or whatever it is, you want to place it on your facing piece, and you want to make sure that the center front, which is the middle of the front piece, you want to make sure that they align. You definitely want to pin the neckline down so that it's smooth and nice. And then you want to cut out the exact neckline up until the shoulders. So we're going to go ahead and do that, right? So we're cutting out the exact neckline, guys. You can see that. Cut out the exact neckline. After doing that, you want to unpin the main fabric from it so that you have just your facing. Now you determine how wide or how long you want your facing to be, and 2.5 to 2 inches is fine. So I will go with 2 inches. You basically want to mark the 2 inches all through, just like that, right? And you want to mark that up until the neckline. Once you have where you've marked it, I don't know if you guys can see the markings, but I'm going to try and do that properly. Once you have the markings like that, you now want to cut it out. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this out. And as you can see, this is my facing. Now to sew the facing on, you want to find the right side. So I'm assuming this is the right side of my top or my dress or whatever it is, and you basically want to match the top of the facing. So from what we know, this is the top of the facing. So if it helps you, you could put a notch on the top. So you want to match the top of the facing, and you want to match it to the top of the neckline, and you're going to pin that in place, making sure that the middle is set. The middle of both fabrics match, and also you want to make sure the right sides as well of both the facing and the main fabric match. After pinning the neckline and making sure the neckline aligns, all you need to do is you need to sew this by 1/2 inch all the way down. Like, you want to sew this by 1/2 inch all the way across. So I'm going to go ahead and do that and come back to you guys. Alright guys, so after sewing by 1/2 inch, this is what it looks like. As you can see, I've gone ahead to sew the facing on the right side. So the next thing to do when you have this is you want to create notches, and the notch is basically to ease the tension and allow it to curve nicely. So as you can see now, I mean, it's there like a circle, like a batu neck, but it's not nicely curved. But by the time I ease the tensions and I just clip it a little bit at different points, it just helps it, you know, sit better. So go ahead and notch all the way as much as possible, and then you want to top stitch this in place. So top stitching is basically just sewing, and you want to sew just right there so that you can sew on. You're sewing all of this down and you're sewing the lining onto it, or rather the facing piece on it. So I'm going to go ahead and top stitch and come back to you guys. So basically after top stitching, this is what it looks like. As you can see, I top stitched onto the facing, and this is what the neckline looks. And I don't know if you can see, but it kind of sits better. Excuse the bird. It sits better and it looks nicely. It hasn't been ironed, guys, but you can see how nice it looks and how nice it sits. And if you like, for the edges here, you can basically just go over it with your overlocking machine, or you can decide to just hem it just a little bit and hem it down. But I would usually go over it with my overlocking machine, give it a good iron, and it will literally just stay in place, guys. If you give it a good iron and you go over with your overlocking machine, it will stay in place. So guys, there we have it. We've come to the very end of today's short tutorial. I hope you guys learned something, and I hope, you know, you're now able to do 2 good finishings to finish off your dresses or your blouses, or whatever it is that you need to finish off with necklines. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope you learned something. If you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Don't forget to share. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't, and don't forget to leave your comments, suggestions, and feedback in the comment section below. If you'd like me to teach how to draw the different necklines that you have, maybe about 10 different necklines, let me know in the comments, and I'll definitely look into doing a video for that. Thank you guys so much for your support. You guys are absolutely amazing. Thank you, and stay safe.